All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning into the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So what I'm going to call today's podcast, or at least what I think I'm going to call it, is Thinking You're the Prince of Florida. So if you know anything about my background, I grew up in the nightclub business originally with my father, and then he sold that club in Illinois and moved to Florida, I think when I was either 13 or 14, not positive, sometime around there, I think 82, 83. And I wanted to grow up to be a professional athlete. That's what I thought I would be, but I was always too small, even though I was pretty coordinated and very strong. And I excelled in sports. I would have definitely really excelled after high school, but because literally after high school, I gained like 80 pounds. I went from 135 pounds to 220. And my strength just went through the roof. I was just kind of a year or two late on that one. But anyways, after around high school, I mean, my backup was running my dad's club. If all else fails, right? Go work for my father. I already was kind of groomed in the business. I was already, we were casting talent for bands, for comedians. I was picking up trays and trays of albums for DJs, for the DJ booth. For my father would actually DJ too, and then just helping him in his club in general, counting money. I was learning how to pour drinks and things like that. So I kind of thought that was my backup, and then my father, he basically sold it and then retired, semi-retired, and went to Florida, and I don't blame him for that, but I was kind of like in high school now, like, what the fuck am I going to do? So I was going throughout high school, and I was still okay in sports. And then I was playing tennis. I even went to Nick Voluntary Tennis Academy, and they were talking about moving there and living there and maybe trying to take things to the next level there. But I loved Nick Voluntary Tennis Academy. I just couldn't see myself playing tennis 24 hours a day, even though it's a beautiful place, Bradenton, Florida. And Nick Voluntary was one of the coolest, nicest guys ever. The place was unbelievable. It really was the place that made me want to officially move to a place like Florida or California. One of the best times in my life going to Tennis Academy. Some of the most beautiful people, just from a physical standpoint, it was amazing. It was just great. So that was out, and I also wrestled. I know they sound opposite, but I did really well in wrestling. I did not want to cut weight. I did not even though I had some offers regarding partial scholarships or something with university. I don't even remember. My mother would get them. I told her I'm not going to college. I didn't want to have anything to do with more school or cutting weight, because they always want you to cut weight and cut weight. I said, I want to get bigger, not smaller, which definitely worked for me later. As soon as I graduated high school, like I said, from holding weight every year for a certain amount for a wrestling position, then all of a sudden I went from 135 pounds to 220. I knew I had the capabilities to do that, but I didn't still know what to do. So, throughout high school, then I was parking cars. We were making amazing money. Well, my dad was in Florida, and I would go to Florida on some of the holidays, after Christmas, after Easter, and then I would do summer school there because I wasn't the best student. Went to a Catholic private school, so I would do summer school in Florida at Oak Ridge, which a lot of my friends, I ended up moving to Florida that I ended up knowing and hanging out with too, where I actually met in gyms. But after I graduated, I was working my senior year at a village in Melrose Park, which is mainly all Italian guys that kind of do whatever they want to do. Love those guys, all older guys. You could work for the village, you could work for a lot of local Italian kids in the neighborhood worked for them. And then they were going to offer me a position there. There was only a couple of positions open, which was really good money, especially in like 1987. The thing was, and I was talking to a couple guys, I knew I was leaving. I hated cold weather. But the money was really good. Even if you do it for a year, you could bank a lot of money, working for the city. But I remember talking to a kid who was like a year or two older than me. And he even said, Rich, it seems like good money now. But then as time goes on, you just end up spending the money. Or then in a year or two, you end up getting a girlfriend. And then you end up having a kid. And then you get a house. And before you know it, it's no money. It's not a lot of money. But I really didn't have my heart set in it. But I moved to Florida officially. My dad came to and he had a big graduation party for me. My mother had a massive one for me, a huge one for like 100 family members. Then my dad had another one at Salerno's in Berwyn. And he was working on getting the account from Hooters. So my father went into the vending business. And he said, hey, we're going to be doing vending. I got some bars. I looked into, this is how crazy this sounds, but Orlando had 14 bars in the Yellow Pages originally when my father got there. And he started putting dart games. His friends, all of them were really exceptional dart players. One of his closest friends invented the electronic darts board. So they were giving him a deal on them. So he said, just for a hobby, I'm going to put some dart games in these bars. And he says, I'm working on Hooters. I'll give you Hooters. I'll take the other ones. I said, that ain't a bad deal. Then he said, I'll put the downstroke on the car. You make the payment. So I won a Grand National. So we kind of cut a deal or whatever you want to say. So I flew to Florida. I got my Grand National, and Hooters fell through, but I just started to help him because his business exploded. And then my father moved into this big, beautiful home on Lake Conway. And then we started to do landscaping to it. I mean, it had 27 massive palm trees. It looks like a house out of South Florida. He had a big jacuzzi in his bedroom. Then we ended up having in the backyard a huge seawall built in with a massive pool, a diving board, 40 feet, I think. Boat dock. Right near the airport. It was gorgeous. So I would be flying back and forth to Chicago a lot, just visiting my family and living in Florida. And before you know it, my father's business just exploded, literally. He did dart leagues, and he had over 1,000 dart league members. Before you know it, we just saturated Central Florida to a certain degree. Then my other family members came in and did it too. So one took over Kissimmee, St. Cloud area. Even friends took over Daytona. Some took over Cocoa. My other cousin and uncle, they took over South Florida. To make a long story short, we were all over the place, and I basically started to know everyone, especially in the bar, nightclub, gentleman's club business. I don't care where I'd go, I basically knew every bartender manager in town, and I'm not exaggerating, because we were in every bar, and if we weren't in every bar, I'd eventually find out who they were, especially in the nightclub business. There were only so many nightclubs back then, too. And again, not only just us, but a lot of, like I was saying, my father's friends and my other family members were, just infiltrating every bar and nightclub with equipment, not just darts. It eventually, led into jukeboxes, 3D golf, just all different types of things, billiards, all different types of video games, all these things over the years. So before, what happened with me was, I remember one time my friends coming to Florida once, and I didn't even realize the lifestyle I had. And then I think I brought I still had the Grand National. And then at 20 years old, I brought a convertible Mercedes, gold. But my friend came to town, and I was taking him and his brother, my other close buddy. It was the year Tyson fought Spinks, because I brought tickets for me and my dad to go check that fight out at the arena. They all came in for like a week, and I picked them up at the airport, and I shot them right to the beach. I think we went to Daytona, because we used to do spring breaks there, so they were kind of familiar with that. I shot right to the beach, and before you know it, because they were in Chicago, my buddy, one of them went to Northern, and one was a boxer. And they, they're never at the ocean, and his brother too. So we went for the day, we went to the beach. We had a blast, came back, and then I took them shopping, and I knew there was only really a couple malls in Orlando back then. And I knew all the hot spots, and I knew all the girls there, and then we went out partying. And I took them to the dollhouse. We had equipment in the Flash Dancer, which is a huge account, which is what the movie's based off of. I knew the managers there. I knew the managers at the dollhouse we hung at, Pure Platinum, just the whole lifestyle. I knew almost all the strippers, and then even the strippers, we would party afterwards, or we'd go to clubs. The ones that weren't working would meet us there. It was just, and I look back at it now, it was a pretty crazy lifestyle. And my closest buddy, his brother, who's one of my closest buddies, says, Rich, you're like the Prince of Florida. And he's like, I can't believe the lifestyle that you lead here, like the house that you live in. Oh, I go, well, that's my dad's house. He goes, it's just unbelievable. And I didn't really realize this till I turned 21-ish. My cousin Frankie got married in Boca Raton, South Florida, at this huge exclusive private club. It was gorgeous. And then again, we were hanging out downtown. not downtown, I'm sorry, South Florida, South Beach, all them areas. I think he was in Deerfield, Lauderdale, Pompano, a lot of elderly there. But we were hitting South Beach before it's really blowout with a bunch of my family members. And I even knew people out there again, and we knew bar owners, we knew managers, and I'm only like 21 years old, and it was starting to really hit me like, wow, like what is this going on in my life? Like I almost felt like a celebrity, but I knew I wasn't a celebrity, but it was just, I was always being treated differently. And even some of my beautiful girl cousins on my father's side were with me, and they were like, I can't, what's going on? Because it was just a different thing. And it's funny when you see like Goodfellas or whatever, like when they walk through a kitchen and shit, they would do that all the time with us, or walk through, I never waited in line for anything. Even if I went to Manigan's, which was the top club in the whole southeast part of the United States, well, at least Florida region, that was a huge nightclub at downtown Disney where the whole dance floor would spin. I was close friends with the manager there. But we never waited in line. I don't care if it was Disney, Universal Studios, they didn't even have City Walk yet. But if it was downtown Orlando, and I also hung out with the two of the top DJs in the state of Florida, Rich and Ray, twice as nice. They were cool guys, along with a lot of other dudes that were in music and in the entertainment business. And and I also was dating off and on my ex-wife, who was wonderful. She'd be in college. So to make a long story short, it was just a different lifestyle. And as time even went on, we were gambling. And then eventually a good friend of mine lost a lot of money. He owned one of the biggest limousine companies. He lost a lot of money and he couldn't pay it. And he says, can I just pay it off in limo time? I said, yes. And we worked out a deal. I said, but here's the thing. If we use you, it's not like you pick us up at 6 o'clock and then we go out and party. And then at midnight, you drive us home, and you're going to say you got, you charge us $80 an hour or whatever it was. You're not going to get, $500 off for picking us up. And he says, no. The time I'll charge you, I promise you, is the only time from pickup to drop off. And you can have us whenever we want, or whenever we wanted, which was amazing. So basically I had a limo service to my disposal. And my partner at the time, we were booking at the time, didn't want to have anything to do with any of that stuff. So I got it all. Even when we do bachelor parties, I would have a limo pick us up, drop us off everywhere. And then even when we kidnapped a close friend of mine to go to Atlantic City to stay at Trump Castle. So I got a private charter for us out of Daytona. So I would have the limo pick us up, take us to the airports. We'd fly out. And then when we arrived, and even when I got married, I had this limo accessibility. I was using it so much. My ex-mother-in-law and father-in-law fell in love with it. Because everywhere we were going, I would have a limo service if we wanted to go out to nice places or whatever we were doing. After like 6 months or whatever, it ran out. I ran out of time with it. And then I says, well, guys, I'm done. I'm not going to pay for it all the time. And they said, okay, it's our turn to pay for it. Even though they were wealthy, it only lasted about a month until they got the tab. Because it wasn't like the deal I had where if a limo company picks you up at, say, 6 to take you out to dinner and you're out till 10 or 11, they're going to charge you the whole amount that they were waiting, which makes sense. But in my case, I didn't have to go through that. But what I'm trying to say is my lifestyle that I've looked back, especially doing podcasts, and people are always bringing up certain things to me because I forget most of the lifestyle I had, was insane. The only regret I have, if any, is all the money that I spent. My mother even used to say, are you crazy? You know what I mean? But you always think it's going to come, but I'm here to tell you it isn't a lot of times. Very similar, we were making a lot of money in the gaming industry, my father especially, for many, many years. And in business, you think, for one, it's always going to be, you're going to always expand or make more and more and more. But what happens, I think, a lot of times is other, competition comes in. Not only that, things come in unexpected all the time. One of the things that happened to us was the smoking law. Actually, I take that back. The first thing that happened was really the DUI law. They started hammering everybody out on DUI, so that really affected our leagues. After that was the no smoking, which blew another hole in the side of it. Which I'm not saying the vending business is still a horrible business, but it was never what it once was, especially in its heyday through late 70s, especially 80s and 90s. Holy shit, especially when you start talking about Pac-Man, Galakia, and all. When you caught those arcade, a lot of those pieces of equipment would literally pay for themselves in less than a month when they were hot. What also happened with the gaming business is equipment became so much money, and for you to make a return on your money became very hard. And then obviously the cell phone industry, and I think along with television, with satellite, when they started to put all the televisions in with football, say, and being able to watch any game you want to watch, that kind of changed the dynamics too. Now, I'm not saying that people still don't play darts, billiards, video games, things of that nature, but it's before it was just different. And I also think people had extra money to piss away, I guess you could say, because that was a form of their entertainment, which was playing games and things in that nature, kids or adults, where now you have a much more expensive, probably rent, but cell phone bill, satellite, your own internet, all these added fees. So a lot of people, enjoy entertainment different than I think they did, obviously, in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So that definitely had a huge impact on the vending business. But I used to say a lot of times, and here's a trick with vending, is a lot of times you don't make your money, with your equipment necessarily always in the bar, because a lot of them you got to split 50-50 or whatever deal you have. But if you can kind of walk out of there in a break-even type of deal after a certain amount of time, because they always want new equipment, then when you go to an auction or even trade in your equipment, that's where you're going to get a nice piece of change, and it's usually cash. So I could go through the whole vending damn business with you, but if you're enjoying a certain lifestyle, and I just did a video or a podcast too on the unexpected, be prepared in life for the unexpected. You never know what's going to happen from literally second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day. Be prepared, because right now we're going through the coronavirus stuff, and they're telling us we got to stay home and this and that. But again, no one knows the unexpected. Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen to you. But from a health standpoint and even a financial standpoint, make sure you protect yourself the best you can. A lot of people never think the bottom's going to fall out, right? I'm one of those guys, actually. But from a financial standpoint, especially if you're making a lot of money, be very aware that that's not going to probably go on forever. And I used to tell my buddies that were traders at the Merc and the Board of Trade in Chicago downtown, when they were making tons of money, I'm like, guys, this is the time to start making your moves when you're making tons of money, because eventually this probably is not going to carry on forever. But they're making so much money, they don't want to leave. That's understandable. But then when it starts to take a shit, now they definitely don't want to leave, because they're trying to play catch up or make what they were making before. And as things start to diminish, now they're falling behind. Now they don't want to invest anything else, or they don't know what else to do. Now they're just trying to keep up with their bills, and before you know it, you get wiped out. But if you could pay attention when things are going good, make your moves and don't wait. You know what I mean? When things are going shitty, it's hard to do anything, which is understandable, right? But that was just something I thought I'd throw in there. But yeah, that's my little story. A lot of people, again, ask me about like the true story, because I wrote the book Wingman. And a lot of people are like, did you really live that lifestyle? Did you really do that? I've even had people, which actually one of the guys who owns one of the biggest movie maker magazines, he's like, Rich, man, you got to do a script about your life. But after writing so many scripts, I'm like, I'm kind of exhausted from it. But I remember, I will say, this is not Goodfellas identical, but I remember, a lot of things that I grew up in that environment where a young person is around a lot of adults doing a lot of different things, which included drugs, including drug deals, including many different things, and wonderful things too. A lot of religion I was around, not just bad. Nightclubs, sex, drugs, alcohol, bands at a very young age, which, you learn a lot. But a lot of what I was learning, I can't implement later in my life, I realized, to a certain degree. And sure, you could throw me probably in a gentleman's club. I could run that, or nightclubs are too loud, or you could throw me in any bar. I can manage those probably very easily. But what's interesting is I really never truly learned how to bartend. It's got to, like, my father groomed me to run things, not kind of be a worker bee, I guess you could say. And I was, where were we, in Fort Lauderdale not long ago, and a lady came up to me and said, hey, what type of drink should I get? I didn't even know her. I says, I don't know. I said, I'm not a bartender. She's like, well, do you know anything about alcohol? I said, well, I grew up in the bartending nightclub business. She goes, well, then you should know. And I said, I says, I'm not a drinker. She goes, what use are you? And I kind of looked at myself and said, that's very true. What kind of use was I, to a certain degree? But I guess I was just programmed in my mind to run things, not get caught up. But I should have, my mother and father both can bartend, they both can serve, they could do all these things. Sometimes I just think, I don't know what I'm good at except maybe socializing, going from bar to bar and collecting money. So that's basically what I did, and that's what I was kind of known for. So, and collecting money with gambling. So I even made a movie about that. If you want, you could check it out. It's called Sore Losers. It's on YouTube. And my other film was called Insanity. So if you want to check that out as well, I kind of incorporate some of my life definitely in Sore Losers, at least the gambling aspect of it, if you want to, if you have any interest in that. And it's free. So I'm going to wrap it up there. If you get a chance, you might want to check out my YouTube channel, Rich CELENZA. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And hopefully, if you're going through hard times with your family, especially through this coronavirus stuff, please stay strong. And if you haven't, reached out to loved ones, they may need you a lot more than you think they do. And just remember your past sometimes too. There's a lot of people maybe that came in and out of your life that you miss. You may want to reach out to them as well. All right. Take care. And if you're traveling, well, you can travel actually, so I know what the hell I'm talking about. Just stay safe. Take care.